Coming up on today's edition of Trailblazer Weekly, basketball season is in full swing. Both teams are off to great starts, and both teams open RMAC play on Saturday. We'll recap both teams' fantastic starts, and we'll chat with women's basketball guard Trailblazer.
Plus, we'll recap the women's swimming and cross-country results from before the holiday break, and later, men's basketball forward Matt Conway will join us on set to discuss the Trailblazers' opening games.
We've got it all on today's show. Trailblazer Weekly starts right now.
Live from the CEC studio at Dixie State University, it's Trailblazer Weekly with Carrick Segmiller. And Drayson Ball. This is Trailblazer Weekly.
We are live inside the CEC TV studios on the Community Education Channel, Radio Dixie 91.3 FM, and the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page with another edition of Trailblazer Weekly. I'm Carrick Segmiller, and joining me as always is Drayson Ball. Drayson, we took last week off because it was Thanksgiving. I got in here this afternoon, and it's like, I don't even know if I know how to do a show anymore. We can't take any more weeks off. No more weeks off. We're going to power right through until the Christmas break.
Well, that being said, I think we're going to take another break off in a couple of weeks. Oh, we'll get to that later. But yeah, no, it's good to be back, Carrick. It's exciting and fun to be back. It's weird to say, but I missed you, Carrick. I missed being here on the set with you, and it was a really good break, but I'm glad to be back.
The feeling is mutual. As that week passed, there was all these things that happened that we're going to cover some of them today, because some of the things that happened were far too exciting not to bring up, even though they're almost 2 full weeks in the past. There was a few things that had me going. For example, the women's basketball game that weekend against St. Martin's, that had me going, man, I wish we were doing a show on Thursday, because there were just so many incredible things that happened. But we're catching up today. As we mentioned in the open, Trailblazer to be on the show with us today. We're going to talk about her shot, her buzzer-beating shot against St. Martin's, that triple overtime thriller. We're going to talk with her with a lot of things, and we got it all on today's show. So
speaking about the open, we all got to see the preview. I guess not a preview, but the new open that we got for the show.
Yeah.
Thanks so much to Trey Davis, who put that together for us. We're excited to have that premiering today as well. So
you probably noticed something else about the set today too. If you're watching on TV or on internet, shout out to Lauren and the CEC TV staff here that helped decorate the set. We are going to have one Wednesday, as Drayson mentioned, I believe it's December 12th, that we will not have a show that day. So since we're missing a Wednesday, we had to get the set decorated for the holidays, for Christmas already, because, hey, you don't have to wait until December. My tree's already up at home and lights and whatnot. So let's just dive right into this thing, shall we?
Absolutely. My tree's already up. It's actually been up since before Thanksgiving. I broke the cardinal rule.
Like the cardinal rule?
I know. I'm sorry, but it's up anyway, and so we're happy to celebrate the holiday season here, maybe a few days early.
Absolutely. Let's jump into our weekend recap to get things started. We will start with men's basketball today. The Trailblazers hosted the Dixie State Red Lion Hotel's Thanksgiving Classic over the weekend. Western Oregon, Academy of Art, and Westminster were all in to play the round-robin tournament. Dixie State ends up winning its own tournament, if you can say there's a winner, the only team that didn't lose a game in that tournament. Trailblazers, after dropping their season opener to Cal Poly Pomona, we haven't had a show since that happened either. Trailblazers did drop their season opener to Cal Poly Pomona 72-66 in a game that saw Dixie State trail by as many as 19 in the second half. They bounced back this past weekend with the 77-68 win over Academy of Art on Friday, and then an 80-70 win over Western Oregon on Saturday. And I would say that the Trailblazers, with each half that they've played this year, and that's going back to that Cal Poly Pomona game, they weren't great in the first half against Cal Poly Pomona, and Coach Judkins knows that. The guys know it. They were way better in the second half in that game. And then a little bit of a slower start against Academy of Art again. They turned around the second half, got the win, and then Western Oregon was 2 complete halves of basketball. They were to get the win over a previously undefeated team, a team who over the past 3 seasons had been to the NCAA D2 Sweet 16 twice. And so that's a big win. That's a resume-building win for Dixie State on Saturday. They're 2-1. They're getting better with each half that they play, and I'd say that's a good sign for a team that, you know, maybe we didn't know who this team was going to be coming into the season.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, the Trailblazers just can't get over the hump when they're playing Cal Poly Pomona. They've struggled against them the last couple of seasons.
0-6 now.
Yeah, and that we'll get past that. But you know, you talked about the wins over Academy of Art in Western Oregon. 2 very good wins, like you mentioned, over Western Oregon. A very good team there. A team that has given the Trailblazers some fits over the past couple of seasons. But like you mentioned, we didn't really know what this team was going to be coming into the year. Don't forget, we lost, as far as the men's basketball team was concerned, lost 6 seniors after the end of last season, including 5 starters. All 5 starters that played in those games last season was lost to graduation for the seniors. You lost Brandon Simister, Trevor Hill, 2 legends, if you ask me, and then a lot of other good players as well. And so all 5 starters, you had to kind of rebuild this team from the bottom up, and I think they've done a very good job of that. So it's expected to have some issues going forward as far as melding and building that team chemistry and kind of figuring out who they are. I think early in the season they've kind of gotten off to a good start in doing that, and you got to give credit to Coach Judkins because he's always been a coach that really relies heavily on building a solid team foundation as far as chemistry goes. And I think you've had a few standout players, but it's really been a lot of a team effort going into this first couple of games, and I'm excited to see what they do going forward.
You mentioned that team effort, and that's exactly the point that I was going to bring up, because you saw over the weekend it was a team that Friday night the starters needed a little backup. And no pun intended. Some of the backups came in. I don't know if you want to call them backups. The 6th, 7th, 8th men, that second rotation came in, and they got a ton of bench production in that game. The bench in that game scored 41 points against Academy of Art. Surprisingly enough, they got outscored by the Academy of Art bench, 46-41. But you had guys like Wade Miller came in and was on fire from outside. He was in double digits that night. Not just from outside, but inside as well. Austin Montgomery, the lone game that we've seen him in so far this season, was on the floor. You're seeing it right there for you TV and internet viewers. He was showing emotion. He was in the game. He had 10 points in like 9 minutes of play. I mean, it was incredible. The guy was 2 for 2 from the field, made all 6 of his free throws, had 3 rebounds, blocked a couple shots, grabbed a steal, 10 points in 9 minutes of play. So the bench was huge Friday against Academy of Art. And then the next night, Saturday, the Trailblazers were able to do something they hadn't done all year to that point. Like I said, it's a small sample size. It's only 3 games. But in the first 2 games of the season, Dixie State was trailing Cal Poly Pomona and then Academy of Art at halftime. Academy of Art game was only a 2-point deficit, but still trailing at halftime. They turned it around. They got the run they needed before halftime against Western Oregon. They took a 7-point advantage into the second half against Western Oregon and were able to maintain that advantage and win that game by 10. You had great start in that game. Jack Pagankoff was huge. The new point guard out of Brooklyn, New York, is his hometown. Matt Conway, we're going to have him on the show a little bit later. He's the reigning RMAC Defender of the Week, although he did his share of scoring as well. So your starters, Zach Frampton, was a big distributor and helped getting things going. The starters in the Western Oregon game Saturday night were key.
Yeah, they really were, and you mentioned Matt Conway. He's been the early leader to this team as far as the scoring, bulk of the scoring production. I mean, 19.7 points per game. Not only got 7 rebounds and a couple of blocks per game as well. He's shooting. He's a very good shooter, and that's one of the things that he's been able to. That's one of the reasons he's been able to score so efficiently. 52% from the field and 35 free throw attempts in the first 3 games. That's a number that I love to see. He's getting to the free throw line. I think he had 13 of 17 in one of the games as well. So he gets to the free throw line. That's where he can do a lot of damage scoring. I'm glad you mentioned the bench earlier, Carrick. You mentioned they scored 41 points in that win. The bench has been awesome all season long in the 3 games. 27 plus points per game from the bench. If you give that kind of production from your bench, I like the chances going forward.
Well, it's kind of interesting as we get set to transition to women's basketball here. It's kind of interesting, though, because as you go back, Dixie State has always had good bench and good role players, but you've always had that guy. You've had a Trevor Hill. You've had a DeQuan Thompson before that. You've had a Maurice Cole. You've had these guys that were fantastic scorers and that they're your go-to guys, and then just some role players off of the bench. Now you've got guys coming off the bench that can spark you with a Wade Miller coming off the bench. Right now, Julian Decree's not playing a ton of minutes, but he had a great stretch the other night. And so it's a team that you've got a solid group of starters, but you've also got guys that can spark you off the bench. And I think that may be the little difference that you see this year. And I think Dixie State is going to be a better team because of it. So right now you've got 3 different guys averaging in double figures. Matt Conway's just about at 20 points per game, 19.6 points per game. Jack Payton-Koff's at 10 points per game, but he's also grabbing 5 rebounds and dishing out 4 assists per game. He had 16 points and 5 assists against Western Oregon. Zach Frampton's not doing a ton of scoring, but the guy is everywhere. On Saturday night calling that game, I don't know how many times we said his name and it wasn't scoring, but it was grabbing a rebound, it was diving for a loose ball, it was taking a charge, some of the things that don't show up on the stat sheet, and that's just who he is. And then Wade Miller, 6 for 10 from beyond the arc this year. I think he's going to be one of the key guys in that 3-point game that they need. And you mentioned the free throw shooting. Against Western Oregon, Saturday night, they were 31 of 36. I mean, you get to the free throw line that many times and you convert 31 of those, that's going to help your chances in just about any game. So it'll be interesting to see this weekend. You and I will both be up there in Salt Lake City this weekend to see the games at Westminster. And, nothing better than starting off with an in-state rival. But we'll preview that matchup a little bit later in the show. But right now, feeling good about where this Dixie State men's basketball team is.
Yep, looking forward to it. Going to be a great season, I have a feeling. We'll stay on the basketball court now as the Trailblazers women's basketball team completed a successful home term on November 16th and 17th. Before the holiday break, Carrick, they defeated Western Oregon, and then obviously we mentioned that triple overtime, 107-103 victory against St. Martin's, and they've really gone on to a tremendous start, a 3-0 start, best since the 2010 season, I remember, and so they've really been off to a good start as well, and they've shown a lot of different categories and stats that I like to see as far as to start the season. They've been scoring a lot, they've been playing very good defense, and they've shown a resiliency and a kind of a team chemistry that I don't know that I've ever seen from a women's basketball team here at Dixie State before. And I really like the program that Coach Gustin has developed, and I think they are going to have a very bright future this season.
It's kind of a tip of the cap to what Coach Gustin has been able to do, and this is his 3rd season here, to see this team. You can go watch them practice, and you see the energy, you see that they're having fun. We're going to talk to Trailblazer about that here in just a few minutes. And that carries over onto the court. And I like what you said about this team this year, because Dixie State has had some good teams. They had a team that was, I think, 24-4, and that was in 2010, 2011. That was the only women's basketball team in the D2 area that's been to the NCAA tournament. But this team is very talented, and it's going to give that team, I think, a run for its money. We'll see where it's at in the wins and losses, and Coach Gustin wants to win badly, and he's recruited the team and put a team together that can do that. We mentioned during the Open that Dixie State, they didn't play last week, but they played the week before. But this game was so exciting that we couldn't not talk about it today, kind of leading into that Saturday RMAC opener this weekend. You and I were on the call, that 107-103 triple overtime thriller. If you're listening, if you're watching on TV internet right now and you missed that game, you got to go back. It's on Stretch Internet, portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State. Go back and watch it. I mean, it was triple overtime game, and I'll tell you, there were 11 ties in this game, 7 lead changes. And the theme of the game, and I kept saying it, what was it that I kept saying? Do you remember?
How many lives do the Trailblazers have?
How many lives? You still have that ringing through your ears, I'm sure. How many lives did the Trailblazers have? And the reason I kept saying that, listen to this. Dixie State trailed by 12 in the first quarter. They trailed by 10 in the second quarter. They trailed by 5 in the fourth quarter. Trailed by 3 in the first overtime period. Trailed by 5 in the second time over period. And then they pretty much handled business in the third overtime and got the win by 4. But, I mean, how many lives did the Trailblazers have? They turned the ball over a significant amount of times as well and had some kind of critical moments. But they showed that they would not quit. They refused to lose. They were going to, at the very least, protect home court, because you can't, when you want to have a successful season, you can't give games away at home. Dixie State did just that, rallied from all of those deficits to win the game. Rochelle Blazard had a buzzer-beating shot from the left wing to tie the game at 84, a three-point shot in the first overtime, send it to double overtime, and then they overcame some adversity. Second overtime, won in the third overtime. I mean, the game had just about everything. And I am not shy in saying that was probably that game and the comeback down by 17 in the championship game of the the Pac West tournament last year, and the men's team rallied to win the tournament on Cal Baptist floor. I mean, those two games right there are they're side by side. Obviously, one's for conference championship tournament championship, but a triple overtime game, buzzer beaters, it had everything. I mean, I want to go back and watch it right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was an unbelievable game, and I couldn't believe I was being a part of it. I almost had to pinch myself during it. But, the thing about that game is, Carrick, is the women's basketball team executed down the stretch, and we saw a few times where they may have gotten a little bit lazy on defense, and that's kind of why they got into some of those deficits. But you mentioned that play with Rochelle Blazard. That play doesn't work if it's not executed absolutely perfectly. I mean, Lisa Van Kampen set an unbelievable screen. The inbounds pass was right where it needed to be, and Blazard knew exactly where she was going to go. And we'll have to talk to her about that shot, obviously. But that's what I liked about this Trailblazer team, is they remained poised, even in dire situation, down by 5 in overtime. You have to be able to execute late in those kind of games and keep your head. A lot of times you can let the moment be too big for you and crumble down the end, and so that's certainly not what we've seen from this team earlier in the season. I mentioned Lisa Van Kampen. She's the leading scorer right now for the women's basketball team at just under 17 points per game. She's shooting 42% from beyond the arc, and 50% from the field as well. And so she's just been kind of the leader, red shirt senior this year, kind of took this last season off, and she's kind of been really the person that's been the leader in my eyes as far as the on-court leadership, and obviously the scoring is there, and she's just been really one of the keys to this season.
Yeah, well, you can see the growth too.
Right.
I mean, obviously took the red shirt year and really did what you're supposed to do during a red shirt year, and I mean, she's stretching the floor now. She's shooting over 40% from three-point range. Just a couple other players before we go to break here that have jumped out to me. Morgan Myers, her scoring numbers aren't real gaudy right now, but how about 7.3 rebounds per game, just about 5 steals a game as well. We had her on the show a couple of weeks ago. She's already won an RMAC Defender of the Week award. Will probably win more this season. Coach Gusson told me in a conversation that we had, and I've seen him quoted as telling somebody else as well, that he feels like she, from last year to this year, from the players that played last year and this year, that she's made the most improvement of any of them. Allie Franks is adjusting to a role where she's not really starting anymore, but Coach Gusson's philosophy is that, the 5 that start the game aren't necessarily the 5 quote-unquote best players. It's all about situations and rotations and units and who plays better with the other. And so Allie Franks has been a huge spark off the bench. 15.7 points per game. She's 7 of 15 from beyond the arc, and she'll continue to do that. So she's flourishing in that role. Mariah Martin has been awesome, 15 points a game. Rochelle Blazard's been great. And how about the freshman point guard, London Palika? Full of energy, explosive player offensively, great defender as well, and rebounds the ball. Yeah. 7 rebounds a game for London as well. And this Dixie State women's basketball team, how about 25.7 points per game off of turnovers? That's 77 total points off of turnovers in 3 games. They're in your face. They'll press you. That's their style, and it's been fun to watch. And so, both men's and women's basketball teams will be at Westminster this weekend. I should note we got to take a break. I should note cross country also wrapped up their season as a team during our break at the South Central Regional Championships. The women placed 14th, men placed 21st. Billy Hatch, 18th place. Congratulations to Billy Hatch. What a fantastic year she's had. All region honors. She was second team all RMAC. And with that time, and the fact that this team is in the South Central region now, and the South Central region is so good at cross country, they got 6 teams into the South Central Regional, the women did. And so that left a couple at-large invites open to the NCAA championships. Billy Hatch received one of those, so congratulations to her. They're making the trip out to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today. We'll talk a little bit more about that. She's going to run in the NCAA D2 championships on Sunday. On Saturday. Should mention that the women's swimming also during the break placed 4th at the Colorado Mesa A3 Performance Invite. They set 11 school records, won 2 events, had 4 NCAA B mark qualifying times, and had 37 top 10 all-time results. So a good showing for them at that as well. So congratulations to the cross country and a great season, and women's swimming. Women's swimming will take a little bit of a break, and then they'll be back at it in January. We got to take a timeout. When we come back, women's basketball junior guard Rochelle Blazard will join us right here on the show. Stay with us. There's a lot more Trailblazer Weekly coming at you.
People like John McCain and other people would just sit there quietly on the sides, and that many Republican activists would refrain from registering their disapproval in the peanut gallery?
Some might argue that Republican activist is an oxymoron.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of activism.
Right.
But you see what I'm saying? If you just flip it right over on its head.
I would like to flip it on its head, and in fact, I'm already doing that because my own position is free speech is free speech. Okay, and I'm kind of advocating for something that I'm really not supporting in this respect, as far as protesting or not protesting and being able to recognize your audience. What we need on either side, I don't care where you're coming from, is the ability to recognize the audience.
Where do you find the titans of classical music in St. George? Classical music on Radio St. George, 100.3 FM. Where do you find the legends of jazz? Evenings on Radio St. George, 100.3 FM.
Trailblazer Weekly is presented by the Dixie State Campus Store, the official store for Trailblazer and Dixie State clothing, as well as cheap textbooks, discounted computers, and supplies for students. They're located in the 2nd floor of the Gardner Center and are open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week. Closed on Saturdays and Sundays? You can stop by any time because they'll be loaded with great Trailblazer swag all the time.
The women's basketball team is 3-0, including a triple overtime thriller over St. Martin's a few weeks ago. Joining us to chat about the great start today is junior guard Rochelle Blazard. Rochelle, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you student athletes between juggling school and practice, and finals are probably coming up. It's a busy time of year. We appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us. We're excited to get to know you a little bit.
Of course.
Let's just jump right into it because, like I said, we're excited to be able to talk to you, excited to get to know you, but this team is a fantastic team this year. Off to a great start, 3-0, like I mentioned, in the Open, and quite frankly, you look out there and you and your teammates just look like you're having a blast. How much fun are you having out there this year with this team?
It is a lot of fun. I just love the environment and the teammates that we have. I think it's going to be a fun year.
And a lot of that has got to be team chemistry, I'm sure. The team seems to have just a special bond already. What makes it so special? I mean, you've gotten to know each other over the summer, I'm sure, and over the fall practices, but what makes this team bond so special?
I think we all have that vision or the goal of just doing our best and reaching our full potential, and I think we have a love and a passion for the game. Everybody wants to be there every day, so.
Obviously, you transfer from USU Eastern. You played at Westminster as well. I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of why you decided to make the transfer to Dixie State and come down here and play for Coach Gustin in this program. What was it about maybe Coach Gustin or the city or the program? What was it about it that kind of made you want to transfer and come down here?
2 reasons. One, because I just have heard really great things about the coaching staff here. Everybody I talked to spoke really highly of JD and Coach Yaz. And 2, when I came on my visit down here, it just felt like a really good fit. That's where I needed to be. So.
That's always good stuff to hear. We always love asking our student athletes why they chose Dixie State. Like I mentioned, you played at Westminster for a while. You played at USU Eastern for a while. Going back to play Westminster this upcoming weekend. How does those kind of quick little trips, or I guess I should call them trips, but how's that experience of playing for a couple of different colleges and programs like that? How did that prepare you to play here at Dixie State?
Well, first off, at Westminster, I was able to learn a lot from the assistant coach, Elaine Elliott. She's an incredible coach, and even though I didn't get to play a lot, I learned a ton about the game of basketball. And then at Eastern, coming back off my mission, that was a really great transition to be able to get back into playing, and they helped me improve my individual skills as well as my knowledge of the game. So that was a really big help at Eastern.
So you mentioned the mission, served a mission to Panama,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken, right? How did that help in becoming a better student athlete? I mean, it's structured way of life, and there's a lot of rules. How does that help in terms of being able to follow what a coach wants you to do and being able to focus on a sport and try to improve day by day?
Well, I think I was able to experience a lot of different things, and I learned a lot of lessons that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to learn if I didn't. So I think that helps a lot, just being more disciplined in my studies and working hard on the court.
Absolutely. We're chatting with women's basketball junior guard Trailblazer here on Trailblazer Weekly. Like I mentioned, 3-0 so far, including that triple overtime thriller. Your team had to come back a couple of times during that game. It was like next time we turned around, they're down 5 again. What's going on? But every time you chipped away and you're able to come back. What is it about this team that said, hey, we're not going to quit, we're going to come back and we're going to win this game? What is it about this team that just doesn't let it quit?
Well, for starters, I think it would have been really easy for us to be frazzled during the whole game and mostly towards the end. But the coaches stayed composed and calm, and it helped us stay composed and confident on the court. And we loved the game, and I think every one of us is really passionate, and we wanted to work hard. We weren't going to accept a loss, so that's why I think.
Yeah, I said on the broadcast, and then I think on Twitter, I've said it to a few people, Coach Gustin included, that was probably the most exciting basketball game I've ever called. I mean, and I'm 5 years strong into it, and at the junior college level, and I've called at Division I game before, and Division II. That was probably the most exciting game I've ever called. It just was a fantastic. Drayson was on the call that game with me as well. Just a fun game to be a part of. We have to bring up this particular play during that game. We couldn't interview you and not bring it up. I'm calling it the shot. I don't know if that is already taken for the, probably one of Michael Jordan's many game winners throughout the year. Half a dozen other, but I'm calling it the shot because I don't care. So you're down 3 into the first overtime. You're able to call the timeout, advance it. Plenty of time left, just over 4 seconds remaining. London Pavlika's inbounding the ball just in front of the bench. Take us through that play. For that, Trailblazer nailed the game-tying 3 at the buzzer, by the way, for all of you listening and watching, to send the game to a double overtime. I lost my mind on the call. It just went absolutely bonkers. Take us through that play from your point of view. You know that you're getting the ball coming out of the huddle. Take us what's going through your mind and walk us through that play.
All right, so there was a lot of adrenaline, the whole team, the stands, everything. So as soon as we walked out of the huddle onto the court, I had to visualize myself shooting that shot and the ball going through the net. I had to visualize it going in. And then Lisa set the screen as I got the ball in bounds, and I came off the screen. The defense was all scattered, and as soon as it left my hands, I just felt it was going in. So it was really exciting. The celebration with my teammates at the end, it was hard to explain.
Now, it looked like on that play that you would have had the option to, if the shot wouldn't have been open, you could have dumped it back to Lisa or to someone else as well. But I'm sure that as soon as you saw that opening, you were thinking, this is my shot all the way. Is that what's going through your mind at that time?
Yeah.
Just an incredible shot. And like I said, I lost my mind on the call a little bit. But I went back, and I was pretty pleased with how it sounds. Sometimes on those exciting plays, I go back and I listen, and I'm like, man, I don't even know what I was saying. I was going crazy. But
congratulations on a great shot and a great game. It wasn't just that particular shot, but you had 24 points in that game, and we're just feeling it. Did you feel a little something extra coming into the game
that day, every once in a while you have that, you're in the zone, that whatever you put up is going to go through?
Not particularly. I know coming into the second half, I just had to regain my confidence and just see the ball going in, and I think we shared the ball really well as a team. So
when you make a shot like that, or when you go into that timeout, obviously you need a three, or someone has to get open for a three. Do you, obviously having come in and had a good game, do you go to coach and say, Coach, I'm feeling pretty good, let me get this shot, or is it more of like you guys talk about it as a team? Who's had the hot hand? How does that kind of that talk go during that timeout in that crucial moment?
I think it's just kind of a feel. Everybody kind of gets that feel. If your teammate's on, you're going to pass them the ball. And I think everybody just had that feeling, and the coaches kind of knew what was going to happen. So. Yeah,
I mean, it was an incredible shot. We can't talk about it enough. I mean, we could talk about 20 more minutes.
I about fell off my chair.
I thought we were going to blow the microphones, our headset. I think we were going to blow a microphone there and have to have some issues there. But you're going into, like I mentioned earlier, you're going in to play your former team this weekend on the first Westminster. How excited are you to kind of go back at a place you played before and play against maybe some former teammates? Did you go into that game thinking, is this a kind of a redemption game, or to prove myself? How excited are you for this?
I'm excited. It'll be fun to play, but I don't know any of the girls.
It's been a few years.
The coaching staff has changed up a bit. So to me, honestly, it's just another game.
Right. I mean, you mentioned there's not a whole lot of other teammates. I've always been interested to know if there is teammates. Does coach come to you and say, hey, you played against these guys, what are their strengths or weaknesses? But I guess there's not a whole lot of that going on right now.
No. Honestly, I think their coaching staff changed up quite a bit, so they may have some similar plays, but I think it's different.
A little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Probably most importantly, it's the in-state thing, it's the the rival thing, but also conference play opens this weekend, and so that's why. Yeah. I mean, you're 3-0, but really it's like you're 0-0 because you're starting conference play. How anxious is this team to show the rest of the RMAC what it can do? I picked, I think it was like 10th to finish 10th in the RMAC, which preseason polls are largely based by the year before, so a lot of coaches even don't really care much, put much stock in that. But how anxious is the team to get conference play going and to show the rest of this league what you're made of?
I think everybody's really excited, the coaching staff included. I think we just want to be able to reach our full potential, and this weekend is a great way to start that. So
awesome, man. We had a lot of fun chatting with you here today, Rochelle. I have just a few questions left for you, some rapid fire, easy questions. We're chatting with women's basketball guard Rochelle Blazer, for you radio listeners out there on 91.3 FM. I forget to do that and got to remind myself hey, they can't see what's going on here. Want to ask you, Rochelle, who is your favorite basketball player? We like to have some fun and get to know Rochelle Blazer, the person. Who's your favorite basketball player?
I really admire and respect John Stockton. So
that's a great pick. You're going to make Grayson happy with that.
You're going to make, well, not even just me, everyone Utah Jazz fan that's watching this and listening to this right now is also going to be very pleased with that response. I mean, I love John. I mean, I love John Stockton. I mean, he just kind of
speaking of the shot
involves what Utah is. So, I mean, is it redundant to ask if the Utah Jazz are your favorite team, or who is your favorite team?
Now that's where it switches up. I couldn't choose a favorite team. I like to watch different NBA players, and I like to watch their skills and how they work with their team, but I couldn't choose one team.
Oh, yeah, it's always difficult, I guess. Just enjoy the sport in general, and if you had to pick a sport, like a favorite sport other than basketball, either to play or to watch, what would you choose?
Well, I did play volleyball in high school, and I really enjoyed that, so I'd probably choose volleyball.
What position did you play?
I was a setter.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You're setting people up, getting ready. Those players don't get the glory often, but I have fun watching our volleyball team. I didn't know a whole lot about it before I got the job here, but watching our women's volleyball team here has really helped me learn about that sport, and those girls are athletes, and it's a fun sport. When you're not playing basketball or playing a sport, what's your favorite hobby? What do you like to do besides sports?
I really enjoy hiking, camping, anything with my family, other outdoor sports.
Well, you live in a good state to be able to do that type of thing, and it's state of Utah. I haven't fallen far from I grew up in St. George, and been here pretty much my whole life, so it's a great state to be able to do those fun things. So we appreciate you stopping by. We know we got to get you off to practice and get you back in the burns and get you with the team and get ready for the game this weekend. I'll be there this weekend and looking forward to it. And again, we just thank you for taking some time with us. And really, we just like to get another student athlete because that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do is these student athletes, and we really enjoy having you around. So
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
we got to take a quick time out. When we come back, men's basketball junior forward Matt Conway will join us right here on Trailblazer Weekly. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
For over a century, Dixie State University has been shaping the Trailblazers of tomorrow by providing a culture of active learning, active life. With a paradigm of real-world experience, mixed with cutting-edge technologies and rich traditions, we provide one of the most affordable educations in the West, set against the most stunning backdrop on the planet.
See on page 4 that the projections need to be earthquake next Thursday.
Seriously? Thursday? Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day. I have no time for this. So.
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
Fast-paced family life in need of a slowdown?
Hello, I'm Dr. Spruce. Did you know all those green shapes on maps are parks and forests? It's true. Visit discovertheforest.org and plan to visit a park or forest near you, instead of just wondering what it would have been like.
While the word forest might make you think of distant lands from far, far away, please note parks and forests are closer than you think, which means things like beautiful scenery, fresh air, and family time are also closer than you think.
Hey guys, how are you today?
Good.
I'm here to talk about how with technology you can make amazing worlds. Come with me. My team and I groomed the Halo world to life.
Is that you?
That is me. I wasn't a math genius and I knew nothing about coding. But you guys do. You guys have the power to change things.
I want your job.
I want you to have my job.
Trailblazer Weekly is the official show of Dixie State Athletics. You can keep up with all the Trailblazer athletic action with pictures, stats, and game recaps at dixiestateathletics.com. While you're at it, don't forget you can follow our show on Twitter as well with @DSUBlazerWeekly.
The men's basketball team is 2-1 heading into RMAC play this weekend. And here to help us break down this team's start is junior forward Matt Conway. Matt, thanks so much for joining us here on the set of Trailblazer Weekly. It's always good to have you players in.
Of course, thanks for having me.
You know, it's first of all, welcome to Dixie State. I think we should at least give you a welcome. You're kind of brand new here. We're excited to have you. Talk about a little bit about we ask everyone of our student athletes this. What kind of helped you influence to come to Dixie? I know you've kind of been around the country a little bit as far as playing basketball. What kind of influenced you to help make your decision to come to Dixie?
Yeah, I think one of the big parts was just coming back a little bit closer to family. I went out, played at University of Albany in New York, which was a good experience. Didn't exactly fit exactly how I thought it was going to be when I got out there in terms of style of play and stuff. And coming back here to Southern Utah and playing for Coach Judkins, I feel like I fit really well in what he likes to do with the system, and also just having my family be able to come to some games. Also, when it's my last couple years of ball, is pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned you grew up in Northern Arizona. It's always good to play close to home. You know, and you also mentioned you played last year in Albany or on the East Coast. What's it kind of like living over on the East Coast? And you mentioned a little bit stylistically different as far as playing, but what's it like living on the East Coast versus maybe here in a desert area in the center of Utah?
Well, first of all, the weather is completely different. I still remember coming back from a road trip and we played UMass Lowell, and it was -1 degrees. And I started scraping off the ice, and there was 3 separate coatings of ice I had to scrape off. And of course, all my buddies were just chilling in the car. They didn't want to help me. So my hands are freezing. We're just tired. We just got back from a game. So weather for me, coming from Chandler, Arizona, like South Phoenix area, I much prefer the heat any day over the cold.
Did you get to New York City often when you were out there?
Not as often as you think, because Albany is like 2.5 hours north of New York City. So when you've got, tough classes, practice every day, games, you don't get there too much. But I went there with my family on the way out. We watched some Broadway musicals with my mom, and so I had a good time. And I went down probably 2 other times just to, go to the city, hang out.
Did you catch a game at the Garden?
Unfortunately, I was not able to catch a game. I wanted to, but I did go to a Yankees game. And so
I might have to walk off the set. He just said that. He just said that name. Big Red Sox fan. That's okay. We'll forgive you for saying the Yankees name. How much different? So you grew up in Arizona, Phoenix area, you said. Then during your junior year, you moved to northern Utah. That's where you finished high school. So you lived in the cold a little bit.
Yeah.
But East Coast cold is totally different. I spent 2 years in Massachusetts. How much different is that East Coast cold than the northern Utah cold that you experienced for a couple winters?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's completely different. Just because they'd give us snow jackets as part of our team gear, and you're still feeling the air go through. It's plastic material. I don't know what it is, but it goes right through. You feel everything. I wore a snow jacket 6 months of the year up there, and I was there for 9 months, so didn't get to change up the whole wardrobe too much.
Yeah, I just remember the 2 years that I spent in Massachusetts. Just like that, you couldn't layer enough because the humidity would just, there's moisture in the air. It just cuts right through everything. So that's crazy. Let's talk about your time here at Dixie State, though. I just wanted to get a little background info on you and ask you what that was like. You're off to a pretty textbook start here at Dixie State. Storybook maybe is a better word for it. 2-1. Of course, you wanted to get that first game against Pomona, but 2-1 at this point in a good spot heading into RMAC play. And you personally have thrived. You mentioned Coach Judkin's system and you fitting in well. We can see that right off the bat. And you've had 3 awesome games. What's been the key to the teams and to your success so far through 3 games?
Yeah, I think some of the key to our team's success is when our defense really gets going, we start talking a lot, we all really feed off it, and then our energy, and then our offense just comes naturally. And then for personal success, I never get the ball and just score. Guys always have to give it to me in the right spot so that I feel comfortable in the score. So honestly, the guard's seeing where I feel most comfortable. Coach has a few plays when you can duck in or get easy looks, and I really got to give it to those guys because they hit me, and I'm laying in from 2 feet, so it's not too difficult to make the shots.
Well, it's easy to give credit to your teammates when you're scoring nearly 20 points a game, as you are. 19.7 points per game for you, Matt. 7 rebounds a game. You also got a pair of blocks a game. What I like the most about that stat line, though, however, and I didn't mention it, 35 free throw attempts. You're getting to the free throw line a whole bunch, and you made 28 of those 35 attempts. What is it about, just being able to get to the free throw line, is being able to get into a rhythm? How have you been able to get to the free throw line so effectively this season?
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, it's just one of those things that naturally just kind of clicked for me always. It's been one of my strengths, high school ball always. And I just think when you just take it to the hoop and the refs can see how hard you're taking it, even if you're not taking it hard, how hard it looks like you're taking it, they have to reward you for it. And so if you're just in there really battling and you're getting knocked back and forth, you're hitting the guys, more often than not, they don't know what to do, so they're going to give you the call.
Yeah, as much as I love the offensive numbers you've been putting up, I love the RMAC Defender of the Week. First of all, congrats for getting that award, and that's always a good thing to get earlier in the season. Is that kind of a first step in improving yourself in this RMAC as far as the new conference and stuff like that? How much of an emphasis do you put on defense, and is it better to play, in your opinion, a good defense, or would you like to score the ball a little bit more offensively?
Yeah, I'm sure Coach wants me to say more defense because that's, of course, their first thing. Honestly, I was kind of surprised because I feel like naturally my games has been a little bit more offensive. I have been able to get a couple blocks, which has helped out the team, but I think a lot of times, like Zach, for instance, Zach Frampton, he just brings a lot of energy, and when he's just getting in the passing lanes, it gets the rest of us going, and then sometimes they get past him and I can step in and make a play.
course, those rebounds help too. When they're looking at the RMAC Defender of the Week, those defensive rebounds and those blocks, and it helps certainly deserve a award. I felt like you were right up there for Offensive Player of the Week as well. But I mean, if it incorporated all 3 games, man, it would have been your award for sure. But I mean, you've been all over the floor and really helping this team. One thing about this team, and you weren't here last year, but I'm sure you've seen and heard about and met the guys that were on this team last year. A few Dixie State legends were on this team last year, and this year's team is totally different. It was almost like you're starting from scratch, building this team. What's it been like being part of this team that's almost building a new identity, and you're honoring those players in the past, but it's a whole new team. You guys are building a new identity this year. What's that been like?
It definitely has been interesting. I've never been on a team when we just have so many brand new guys. I think at first it was in practice every single person going 110% trying to prove themselves, which makes it hard because no one was remembering the plays because they just want to prove that they're the guy, But I think honestly everyone's starting to fit in, see what they can do to help the team, see how they can contribute. And so I think sometimes these things take a couple games, and you could see, especially with us in the first game, the first half was not great. And I think everyone just, starting to feel where they fit, and coaches are starting to give people what their roles are, and I think we're starting to really play a lot more together.
And along with that, just following up with that, that's probably the main difference between Game 1 and into Game 2, and then Game 3 against Western Oregon. It seemed like you guys put together close to a full 40 minutes. Good start, had the lead at halftime. What was the biggest difference between the Academy of Art game and the Western Oregon game?
I think one of the biggest differences, we have a goal that we don't want to lose any 4-minute battles. So when you're looking at the time throughout the game, each 4 minutes we have it as its own segment. And during that game, I felt like there wasn't too many times when we'd lose, 2-4 minutes in a row. We're really just constantly playing at a high level.
Chatting with men's basketball junior forward Matt Conway here on the set of Trailblazer Weekly. Matt, this weekend you begin RMAC play and the conference play, and this is kind of really obviously what matters as far as the standings and stuff like that goes, and postseason play. How excited is it for you and for the team to kind of get this conference play started and going up and playing a natural in-state rival in a team like Westminster?
Oh, no, it's very exciting. It'll be the first time I've ever played Westminster, but I know, of course, some of the other guys are probably feeling the rivalry a bit more. But no, I'm really excited we want to get off to a good start, 1-0 in the conference, and, we've got a goal of winning conference, and so no better way than starting 1-0 this weekend.
We're looking forward to Carrick and I will make the short trek up to up there in the Salt Lake City area to be able to watch you guys. Let's move into what we call our rapid fire segment. We like to do this with all of our student athletes. So let's get you a couple of quick questions. Favorite basketball team?
The Mavericks.
The Mavericks. That's a weird one. I don't know.
How does that come about? Just big.
I just naturally like the best player, Dirk, the greatest player of all time. So I just naturally became a Mavs fan.
All right.
So you just answered the next question then, as the favorite player. What is it about Dirk's game that you like so much?
I don't know. I feel like you can just feel his confidence out there. He's hobbling around, but he's still just getting so many buckets. I just got to respect it.
He's getting buckets.
Yeah.
I love it.
Fair enough. What do you a lot of talk about with basketball is the music they listen to, like in the locker room or whatever pregame. What's your favorite type of music? Do you have a favorite artist, favorite type of music you like to listen to maybe before a game?
Yeah, no, I kind of fit the stereotype for basketball. My favorite genre is definitely rap. Sometimes I listen to other stuff, but not too much. I mean, classic Eminem is probably my favorite, but I listen to a bunch of other underground artists that people probably don't listen to too much, but, Eminem's definitely a classic for me.
Yeah. And then if you could get a favorite hobby outside of basketball, maybe outside of sports, what would it be?
That's a tough one at times.
Right now, this time of year, you don't do much else besides school and basketball. Right. But when you got time off, when you can go kind of wind down, what's your go-to thing?
I like playing Fortnite with my little brother. He's pretty good. He can carry me quite a bit, so it's pretty fun.
Well, maybe we'll have to join into a Fortnite game every once in a while, squad up and do that. Talking with men's basketball forward Matt Conway on the show today. Of course, again, the conference play opening this weekend. In Salt Lake City at Westminster. We've got just a couple more minutes before we run to the break. You're at Westminster, you're on the road then to South Dakota. I mean, you want to talk about a long trip and somewhere that maybe you'll feel more like you're on the East Coast again when you go to South Dakota and feel those temperatures. That's going to be cold. But 3 games on the road to start the season, and I think sometimes
some people, obviously not use coaches and players, some people have a tendency to say, well, if you drop a game or two at the start of the year, you have time to turn it around, but you end up, missing out on the conference championship by a game and a half or two games. You can go back to maybe a game at the start. How much emphasis is Coach Judkins placing on, we got to start fast in conference play. We've got 3 road games. We don't have any room for mistakes to go on the road. We got to play our best.
Yeah, we have a team goal to never drop 2 in a row. So if we're going, if we lose Friday night, hopefully we never do. But if we do, we cannot lose Saturday. But I think more than anything, we just take it one battle at a time. We really haven't even talked about the other games. It was news to me it was going to be 3 in a row because we're really all just 100% Westminster, get this first win.
We can talk about stuff like that. We don't want you players looking too far ahead. But I just wondered if he'd place any extra emphasis on just starting well because you got a 3-game road swing. Obviously, you're focusing on just this game, but have they talked at all about the back-to-backs and getting ready for that? That's something that's new to us here at Dixie State, and I don't know what the schedule was back at Albany or what, but have they talked much about the back-to-backs and kind of what the strategy is going to be to make sure that you're ready to go 2 nights in a row?
Yeah, you got to be really focused mentally just because you got to know we're practicing for a team, for a couple days during the week. Then you've got one night to know the whole scout, what the team likes to do, which of the guys, what they like to do, tendencies. And so you got to be just as focused physically as you do mentally. But you definitely as well got to, get off your feet as much as you can, try to get as much rest because as I learned this past weekend, you definitely feel it going in the second game that you had just had a game the previous night.
Good. It's men's basketball junior forward Matt Conway joining us here on the show as we kind of run out of time here on the segment. One last question before we asked you about music. Are you a Christmas music guy? You get into this season that way? We were talking about this earlier on the show as well. How soon is too soon? It's not even December yet.
Honestly, I'll just listen to rap the whole year, but if I'm at home, my mom puts it on, I don't mind, but I won't put it on for myself.
I listen to that stuff in July. I start getting
maybe a little Josh Groban here and there. But
there you go. Good call. Men's basketball junior forward Matt Conway. Thanks for joining us, Matt. It's been fun to get to know you a little bit, and look forward to many more conversations, whether on the set or just inside the Burns and down at practice or just around. So we're excited to have you here at Dixie State, and we appreciate everything you're doing for the men's basketball program, and look forward to seeing what you guys do this year.
Thank you.
Thanks. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll put a bow on the show with our weekend preview. We look ahead at both men's and women's basketball games at Westminster, as well as women's cross country junior Billy Hatch heading to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to run in the NCAA Division II National Championships. We'll talk about all of that and wrap up the show coming up next on Trailblazer Weekly.
Okay, we are inviting you to join us for Talking Point Live.
Coming to you, not necessarily live, but tape delayed on the Community Education Channel at 9:30, 12:30, and 4:30 daily, from what I understand. But you can also pick it up on our Facebook page at facebook.com/TalkingPointLive.
And respond to us, right?
Please,
on
let
Facebook.
us know, because it's important to understand not only how our conversation is going, but maybe how is it affecting you at home as well. All right, Eric Young,
Jennifer Kohler.
Talking Point Live. We'll see you.
Radio Dixie 91.3. We don't play that. Nope, not that. A big fat no there. That's what we play. And stuff like that. On St. George's only alternative, Radio Dixie 91.3. Oh, and from 9 till midnight, we play this. I need a one dance. And this. Radio Dixie 91.3 FM.
I take the road less traveled, run free, unwind, unravel, someplace outside with lots to do. Green trees, red rocks, and don't forget that blue sky. The sunshine shining, sunshine pouring on me. Think I might just stay a while. Say hooray all day because the sun is gonna shine on me. Sun is gonna shine on me. Sun's gonna shine on me.
The Dixie State Stretch Internet Portal and the RMAC Network is your home for all Trailblazer athletics live streaming. Don't miss a second of the action. You can watch DSU games home and away at portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State. That's portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State.
Another show is almost in the books, and you know what that means. Time to put a bow on today's show. with a look ahead for a weekend preview, starting with basketball. The Trailblazers traveled north to open the RMAC play at Westminster. Both the men's and the women's basketball team will be making the trip north, and we're excited to get this RMAC, this conference play underway. We've seen some terrific games so far for both the men's and the women's side, Carrick, but it's nice to get your feet in, dip your feet into the water in RMAC play, and then go forward from there.
And us people, I don't know, can we be considered media members? I mean, we're both pretty Dixie State alums and alumni and pretty close. I don't know if we consider ourselves, and I'm employed by Dixie State University, so I'm not really a media member, but you know, these shows, media members, they're the ones that really, we like to talk up the whole in-state rival thing. I don't think the teams are playing that up too much, except for the fact that, you know, a lot of these guys will know people on the rosters. The Westminster men's coach, his name slips my mind now, but he was the men's coach at Salt Lake Community College when Coach Judkins was at Snow College. So there's some history there, and they coach really hard against one another. They do not like to lose to one another, so it's going to be a fantastic game there. If you want even more of that kind of stuff, Coach Guston on the women's side coached for quite some time, 6 or 7 years, at Westminster back in their NAIA days, and had some awesome teams. In fact, current women's basketball assistant Nicole Yazzie was a 4-year player for Coach Guston at Westminster. So they have some history with Westminster as well. And then you bring it full circle, these are two very good basketball teams that the men's and women's teams will be playing. Both the men and the women's team at Westminster are 2-2. The men had a 197 win over Central Washington. They went up and played in a tournament in Seattle, at Seattle Pacific, two tough teams there. And then they edged Academy of Art 56-50 on Saturday. That was here. The Academy of Art game was here in St. George, so the men's coaches got to see Westminster, as did Westminster, got to stay around and scout our team a little bit. On the women's side, they're 2-2. They had a win over Texas A&M International, and then a win at Missouri S&T. So they made the trip back east for some games, and they're 2-2, but they played some tough teams. Coach Guston has already told me that we're going to have to play our very best to win this game, and we'll see what they can do. An opportunity for both teams to make a statement entering conference play, and you want to start fast, set the tone. You don't want to have to play from behind on the road.
Yeah, I love what you said. You have to set the tone. I mean, you're coming into a new conference where no one really knows who you are or what you're capable of, and they don't even care what you've done in the past. Obviously, the men's basketball team coming off the Pac-West Championship last year, no one in the RMAC really cares about that. They don't respect that just because it's a new conference. But I like what you said about you got to be able to start fast, and we've seen the men's basketball team kind of have a couple of slow starts in the first halves of games. Look for them to come out and be a little bit more aggressive early on. And as for the women's side, look for them to continue to do what they've been doing all season long, forcing turnovers, to the tune of nearly 26 turnovers a game. I don't know if we actually mentioned that in the first segment, but 26 turnovers a game is the women's basketball team forcing, and that's just an unbelievable number. I don't know if they'll be able to keep that number throughout the entire season, but boy, if they do, look out, because they're going to be tremendous defensively, and we've seen they've been able to put the ball in the basket offensively as well. So look for both teams to get a really good first road trip started going into conference play.
Be excited. Looking forward to that trip. Knocking on wood here, hoping that there's supposed to be some weather in the forecast up that way, so hopefully don't run into any issues trying to get up and back. But excited to be able to make that trip and to bring that game for you. You'll be able to listen to both games on Radio Dixie 91.3 FM right here for you radio listeners on this station. We wrap things up today. Want to make another quick note about women's cross country sophomore Billy Hatch. Fantastic year, second team all RMAC, 18th place showing at South Central Regionals to earn all South Central Region honors. She's qualified for the Division II NCAA Championships in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on Saturday. That race will take place in Pittsburgh at 10:15 Mountain Time on Saturday. There's some rain in the forecast there, which actually may provide a little cloud cover. It may be warmer than if it was not raining. So the temperatures might be in the 30s and the 40s for them. Great opportunity for Billy to go out with Coach Justin Decker and assistant coach Ross Decker. Wonderful opportunity to represent Dixie State. We're going to try to get her on the show next week, so good luck, Billy. Go and have a great performance at the NCAA Championships and represent Dixie State well. Our time is gone. Another edition of Trailblazer Weekly is in the books. I want to remind you, you can watch the show on demand anytime at youtube.com/Dixie State Athletics. For the entire CEC TV crew, for Martin Kelly and the Radio Dixie 91.3 FM studio, for Drayson Ball, I'm Carrick Segmiller. Thanks for making this part of your day. We'll see you next week on Trailblazer Weekly.